Imagine spending billions on this like state-of-the-art naval fleet only to have it completely paralyzed by cheap drones. I mean, stuff you could practically buy at a consumer electronics store.
Yeah, it's wild. That is the rather embarrassing reality facing some global superpowers this week.
Right. Well, welcome to your deep dive analysis of this week's key spy stories and security intelligence updates. We're bypassing the noise to look at how asymmetric warfare is exposing some incredibly unexpected vulnerabilities in, massive adversary nations.
It really subverts how we usually picture modern warfare. I mean, we always expect these massive high-tech clashes, but right now it's tactical drone strikes, sneaky cyber operations, and, well, some pretty lopsided alliances that are actually reshaping global security.
Exactly. Just look at Ukraine's unmanned systems forces. They have absolutely battered Russian maritime
Oh,
logistics.
definitely. They've hit over 130 Russian ships across the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea.
Which is huge. And the cascading effect is the real story for you here. This isn't just about, scratching the paint on ships.
No, not at all. It's paralyzing Russia's shadow fleet, that covert network of uninsured, untracked tankers that Moscow relies on to bypass international sanctions.
Right, because they literally can't move these ships safely. And as a result, their expected July wheat exports have dropped by, what, up to 20%?
Yeah, up to 20%.
It makes me think of a boxing match where one fighter completely avoids the knockout punch, and instead they just repeatedly stomp on their opponent's feet until the clumsy giant can't even walk.
That is a perfect way to put it. It's basically a strategy of economic starvation.
And they aren't stopping at the coast either. Ukrainian drones hit the Omsk refinery, which is 2,500 kilometers deep inside Russia.
I mean, that single strike just destroys the long-held assumption that Russia's vast geography naturally protects its critical infrastructure.
So true.
Their supposed military superiority is being systematically dismantled by this persistent drone pressure. You now have a petrostate desperately restricting exports and heavily subsidizing their own domestic fuel markets.
All while they are scrambling to fix these complex refining units using repair networks that are just choked by Western sanctions.
Right, so since their physical infrastructure is bleeding them economically, they have to project power in other ways.
Which brings us to their cyber operations. Because they are struggling in the physical domain, Russian intelligence is resorting to these sneaky, deceptive digital tactics.
Specifically the GRU-linked Sandworm unit. They've been deploying these click-fix, fake KEP-TCHA pages against Ukrainian targets.
Wait, I really have to ask about this. If Russia's elite cyber units are resorting to tricking people into copy-pasting fake security checks, I mean, isn't that just glorified, desperate phishing?
It does sound like it.
It just sounds kind of pathetic for a supposedly top-tier intelligence agency.
Well, it's low-tech on the surface, sure, but the underlying mechanism is highly insidious social engineering. They trick the user into copying malicious PowerShell commands.
Which are basically the computer's built-in administrative tools, right?
Exactly. And by doing that, the malware bypasses automated defenses entirely because the human is doing the dirty work for them.
Wow.
Yeah, it enables deep reconnaissance for follow-up sabotage against military targets.
Which completely explains why French, UK, and EU authorities are aggressively sanctioning both the FSB and GRU for cyber espionage.
Exactly. They recognize that these digital tricks are essentially the tip of the spear for real-world sabotage against European infrastructure.
Well, and as Russia's physical and economic isolation deepens, Moscow is being forced to lean heavily on Beijing, and Beijing is, frankly, more than happy to exploit that exact desperation.
Oh, absolutely. Publicly, they posture together. They just wrapped up the joint C-2026 naval drills in the Yellow Sea.
Right, doing all this submarine and anti-surface posturing together. But the underlying reality is starkly asymmetric. Russia desperately relies on Chinese trade just to survive.
And Beijing's response to that desperation. They are deliberately delaying the massive power of Siberia 2 pipeline. They are squeezing Moscow for better terms.
It's not a partnership of equals at all. It's a friendship where one guy pays for all the meals while the other just takes the selfies to look good.
That is exactly what it is. China is maintaining strategic distance while bleeding Moscow for every possible concession.
Right. And while they are keeping Russia at arm's length, Beijing is aggressively advancing its own strategic capabilities to basically bully its neighbors.
Yeah, they're weaponizing AI diplomacy in Shanghai.
And by AI diplomacy, you mean they are positioning themselves as the indispensable alternative tech hub for developing nations.
Right, essentially exporting their surveillance technology under the guise of partnership. And they are backing up that soft power with some very hard military flexing.
Like the new missile they've been boasting about.
Exactly. They recently tested a new JL-series submarine-launched nuclear missile with an 8,000-kilometer range.
And that specific distance isn't random.
Not at all. An 8,000-kilometer range means Chinese submarines can now potentially strike the continental U.S. without ever leaving the protected waters of the South China Sea.
Which fundamentally changes their nuclear deterrent posture.
It does. And then you add Taiwan to the mix, where Beijing is trying to suffocate the island with persistent gray zone operations.
Right, we're talking aircraft constantly crossing the median line and naval vessels probing defense zones.
Yeah, actions that stay just below the threshold of actual war, but are designed to force Taiwan into a state of permanent, exhausting mobilization.
So when you trace this through line from Russia's crumbling maritime logistics and their sneaky cyber tricks, all the way to China's predatory economic leverage and military flexing, a clear picture really emerges.
It really does. Massive adversaries are deeply vulnerable to asymmetric tactics, but they are adapting in some very dangerous ways.
Which leaves you with this thought to mull over for the week.
No.
If Ukraine's cheap, decentralized drones can successfully paralyze the supposedly mighty Russian fleet and energy sector, well, are China's massive, multi-billion-dollar naval investments around Taiwan actually the ultimate threat?
Or are they just giant floating targets waiting to be exposed?
Exactly. Keep that image of the clumsy giant getting its feet stomped in your mind.